Welcome back to another one of Ray's ridiculously random rambling ruminations. I am Ray. Spoiler. So, it's been a few minutes since I've done one of these, and I'm a father. I've got a few in my brood, and as all parents are aware, and kids because they've experienced it and everything, sometimes siblings fight. Cats and dogs, sometimes they get in trouble and then they blame each other, and you want to strangle them both because they just won't stop. It's pester, fight, bicker, ah! And so with mine, my special little bit of torment and torture is I make them hug one another. That's not a real hug. A real hug. So, you have them start off with I don't want to touch each other. And then it gets into the hug where each child is now trying to squeeze the life out of the other one until eventually, that breaks the ice and they actually hug and then they turn to you and you're there with a smirk on the inside. Because you can't smirk outside as a parent when you're handing down the law and the justice. You can't crack that smile because if you do, you messed up and it's over. So you have to keep that amusement or that satisfaction of success inside. So I remember when I was a kid, my sisters back and forth would fight all the time, and they were. So my mother had a shirt, and they make them put on the same shirt. They're that close to each other, and they hated it. But eventually they grew closer, and they were allowed to take it off. So I'm sure parents all over the world has similar stories to, when siblings fight or when they get in trouble together and they're blaming each other. You put them together and you make them stay together. And I know I've said this a few times when I've sent my two sons to the room, go in there until y'all can get along. And I'm like, well, if only one of them survives, I'm only on the youngest one. But anyway, I still have two children that are boys, so I didn't lose either one of them yet. They're still together. So, but they just bicker and fight when they get in trouble together. They want to blame each other, and as parents, we have to unify them. And the world has so many different sayings of when things get rough, you have to pull together. When you're going through hardship, you have to pull together. Things like that. Well, it reminded me of the Bible when Jacob, Israel, had his all his kids, the heads of what would eventually become, quote unquote, the 12 tribes. Yes, I know Joseph has two sons that blah, blah, blah. I understand where you're going with. But, Jacob had all his boys and his girl, and they were not nice. They were not friendly. They fought and bickered, and many of them weren't willing to follow their father's God, their father's rules. Some of them openly rebelled, some of them secretly rebelled, and they came out in the open. But when it kind of hit me was that if they had stayed in Canaan, if Joseph was never sold into slavery, and if they had survived the famine together, managed to survive and stayed there in Canaan, that we would not have had an Israel like what we have in the Bible, because those 12 tribes, so to speak, were already fractured and broken and splitting apart and falling away, so that when, a couple hundred years later, there would not have been a King David because of so much turmoil amongst them. So God used the captivity of Egypt, one, to teach lessons, but two, to unify them through common persecutions, through common struggles, through things like that, because God can take problems, issues, heartache, financial problems, family bickering, job loss or job employment, or a loss of loved ones. God can take the painful hardships of our life that sometimes are caused by us, not me. I'm paragon of virtue. Just don't ask my mother that. And, God will take the hardships of life, whether it's from us or from the world, and God can use those situations to strengthen us, to bring us closer together. And we as Christians look at things and be like, oh, Satan be gone, and get thee behind me, Satan, all these things. But God can take a situation that we find ourselves in and make us stronger for it. We just have to realize that God's using that particular time period to bolster us, to build us up, to draw us to one another. The church is talking about we're the remnant of the church right now. We have to rise up and stand up. Well, we have to persevere and come together through both common hardships and individual hardships, come together, support one another so we can continue. So what God is doing right now is he's putting us in our room together and we're fighting and bickering, but we need to get past that and unify. God's put us in that shirt that only fits one, but now there's two people in it and we're bickering and fighting, but we have to get past that and realize that we're in this together. So that's it today, just a little plop. God took the slavery and captivity of Israelites and used the hardship, one, to bring them together, and two, so he could bring them out of that situation united. And that's what we as individual families and as extended families and as a church needs to do. We need to unify under one banner, under one heading, under one title. Catch you later.